Thanks for joining me again. Um, so today I'm going to be showing my contact sheet from a recent family session. I picked this session because, first of all, it's my most recent session that I just finished editing, and it's not necessarily the most creative of my sessions, but it's one where I have enough photos and enough things to talk about that I can kind of like just talk through how you know kind of like how my family sessions work. Um, at a later time, I could definitely show like other session types. Um, if you guys would want to see more of that. But I guess I'll go ahead and get started. This is a family that I've worked with in the past. First time I worked with them, they only had the daughter. So this is they just had their son, or they had their son several years ago and decided to come back to me. Um, One of the things they had mentioned was the reason they came back was because they noticed that with the photographer they went with, they did not get the same level of variation in images. So it seemed like there was just more of the same type of images, or not enough scenes or angles or things like that. So it just seemed like they had less images to choose from. And one of the things I try to do when I do my sessions is I try to make every image I take unique. And part of how I do that is by varying the scene, making sure the backdrop is different each image. Now, in this image, I delivered a final of 78 images. I generally deliver around 40 to 60. So in this one, there are few repetitive scenes, even though the poses will be slightly different. Um, and I find that with families, it's a little bit harder for me personally to be as creative, especially when they're your younger kids, because a lot of my creative work relies on cooperation with the subjects. The subjects need to be able to take instruction and stand still and do the things I need them to do. So when they're little kids, it makes it a little bit harder for me to do that, because kids run around. That's what they do. They move and they don't listen, especially at really young ages. And I know that firsthand from my experience with my daughter. So I know how hard it can be to give a little kid instruction, or make them do anything that they don't want to do. So there are a few things I let go, like camera awareness is something I try to eliminate in my images. I don't like subjects looking into the camera, but with family sessions, I'm a little bit more open to that because I know the difficulty there is having kids do what you want them to do. Now, if I'm faced with a client who wants documentary style family photography, then things get a little bit much easier in the sense that I could just document what's happening, and that makes it a little bit more easier to deal with, you know, little kids who don't care, like who don't want to do stuff. You just let that be the image. But a lot of these clients who want photos for Christmas that they get to send, so they want a little bit more perfect seeming situation, where everybody's doing what you want them to do. So I take all those things into account when I am making these pictures, and I just I try to give my clients what they want, versus kind of force my own ideas on them. But sometimes you find that client whose wants align with what you want to do, and you're able to, do what you want to do. So in this case, I try to get a little bit more stylized, posed, camera aware photos. So just take that into consideration when you're going through this set. But that's generally how now I choose to approach family photography that generally comes when it's Christmas time and they're trying to make cards. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So these are the first. I'm just going to go through everything and kind of talk through what I was thinking, blah blah blah, what was happening, how these images were made, and as I go, you will see the images I selected. All right, so this is just the first shot, kind of testing out light and stuff like that, while they're getting ready, and as they get ready, you know. So my thing with the dad is he's one of those people who kind of like just does his thing, um, and what I might give him direction, but he would move after I've given him direction. So he's crouching over, and I'm like, "Why are you crouching over? Like, I don't understand. Like you're supposed to be standing. That's what most people do." But he's trying to get close to his kid and trying to create the pose, right? He's that kind of guy. So I get this image with him crouched, bent over, and I'm like, okay, get up now, stand, and see all the stuff he's doing. He's touching and moving around. And I'm like, dude, that's not what you're supposed to do. Just get in position. So eventually he gets in position, and I give a little bit more instruction. But he's also moving around. Like you notice, the mom and the son are like just standing, but he's moving around and he's making it more complicated. But eventually, I tell him, put your hand on the shoulders, blah 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 blah, and I grab that image. I shoot vertically. I generally don't shoot vertically, right, unless the composition calls for it. And I felt this was one of those times because in order to get the whole frame, the whole arch in frame, I needed to go vertical, and I didn't need all the excess stuff on the sides. Everything is kind of centered. So I'm like, okay, this is the tall composition. I'll go vertical, right? And that's generally how I determine what orientation to put my camera in. If it's not a composition that has like it's not a composition that dictates that the camera is vertical, I don't turn my camera side. That I don't turn my camera in portrait orientation. It has to be a tall composition. So, and this is a prime example of one of those. I don't use portrait orientation to cut out things from the side that I don't want to have to think about, which is what I feel a lot of photographers do, is they turn it that way because they just want to crop out the sides without having to think about it when there's nothing that says this is why you go tall. In my case, I like to go tall when the composition is a tall composition. The elements in the top that I want to include. If not, I figure out how to recompose in my landscape mode. So I'm still shooting, getting more shots, more sequences. I shoot more. I shot about 1,530 images in this session. I usually wouldn't shoot that high in a portrait session, especially one in the same location. But the issue here is the reason I did this is because I had to take a little bit more sequences because of the little kids, because you're trying to capture specific images with the right facial expression, right gesture, and little kids are always moving around, so you have to take a lot more shots to be able to freeze one where everybody's doing exactly what you want them to do, since you can't give instruction to every single person in the scene. So these are just more. So now I have them sit down, trying to vary the scene and the composition, and the pose. I had them sit down, and I'm taking my shots, and I get this one. But as I'm shooting, the little boy starts to, I think he wants to jump off, or he starts having fun, right? But if you see, they're distracted now. But he's giving us something. They're giving us something. They're like, what's going on, guys? So in the next frame, I get this shot. Nice gesture, nice movement, emotions. But they're also like in that frame, this is basically what they were doing. So I decided that I'll create I changed the crop so I could at least save this moment, even though the other guys were not playing along, playing nice. But as I kept going, if you notice, they give me something, and while that's happening, so I was like, okay, well, we now have an additional photo. So now there are two. I made two photos from one one scene in a sense, and that worked out. So now they swap places, and I'm now doing more sequencing, more shots, trying to find something, hoping that dad and the son get their act together, and they do. Now I have another shot, another scene. Sorry, not another scene, another shot, another pose. And I keep going. I get closer to the dad, try to find something between, that he and his son could salvage. And I got that moment. Not the best. I don't like the cropped hands, but again, I tend to be a little bit more forgiving of myself, just because, with little kids, man, you never know what you're going to get. So you might be focused on one thing and you don't realize the dad's moved his hand lower and he's cropped his hands. So things like that, so I get that. I salvaged that. I found another. I kept shooting, changing my composition slightly so I could get something, and I got that. I like that they were both looking at each other, and it seemed like a genuine moment between both of them. So I was able to grab that composition as well. Then I go to mom and daughter, and I keep shooting. They're looking at me. I'm like, cool, but I'm varying my composition in the background a little bit to get a little bit more, something a little bit more, you know, structured. Like the line, have things line up properly and stuff like that. And I get that, and I look for more, like having them engage a little bit more. And the little boy gets dead, and I get that one too. Saved it, and again here you can see the composition that I've picked, and I'm sticking with it, and it's tall, and for obvious reasons. Again, it's another tall composition because there's no need. Everybody's right there in the middle. There's no need for stuff on the side, you know, especially if you saw what the sides look like, right? So I made it a tall composition and went in portrait orientation. And I stuck with that. Stuck with it. Shot through, continue shooting. The thing about this is you shoot, right? You just keep shooting till you feel you've gotten something. And in post, you go through it and realize that, okay, the image you need is a lot further and, it's in the middle of the sequence. But you just keep shooting because you never know what's going to happen. Here, they didn't move too much, so it was cool. Then I got one with mom and daughter, Then here, I moved to a different spot, picked my composition, and just shot. Told him what to do. Throw the boy up in the air. Just make sure you stand in the circle in the frame. Stand in the archway. And I just keep throwing him up. Keep throwing him up. Keep throwing him up. And eventually, I figured I would get something. And I did. That was my shot. That was the one I saved. It had the right emotion, the right gestures, it had movement, and had a really nice composition. All right, so moving on. So here, I found another triple archway. When I was shooting this, I noticed the little girl had the plants in front of her, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and get something, even though it's not directly in front of her. It's not blocking her face. So we'll just play with that a little bit. I just kept shooting, and I was like, all right, this is cool. I got this. I chose this one because everybody's hand is touching something, even the little boy. And I just thought it was cool. But I made them switch places because I felt like, the little plants was kind of too high to be next to her. So I had her sit with her brother in that archway. I created that one. This was one of the ones that worked out where everything kind of like fell into place. I'm shooting more sequences. Yeah. More sequences. And you gotta keep shooting sometimes, so you never know what you're gonna get. So here I had the dad test out a scene for me, just so I see how the lights was and the colors and stuff like that, and kind of gauge how close I had to be to the whole family, blah blah blah. Sometimes I like one person to get in the spot for me, so I don't have the entire family standing there trying to figure out. Then I decided I don't want to do the shot, so he stood there, and I ended up doing the shot with the shot. I used him, got that shot. He gets to keep the picture because it turned out to be a decent picture. So I edited and have him keep that. But initially he was a test subject for me. So before we get to actually doing the previous shot, the kids are on the floor, they're playing around. I'm like, all right, I can try and get something, see if they do anything that is cool. Eventually they sit together, and I get that image. I was like, all right, that's cool. Cool family photo, whatever. But ultimately, the goal here is to really kind of see what a full session looks like. at least family session, and just see the hear and see the thought process behind how a lot of these images are made, and how I change my scenes and shoots through them. Um, so there's me photographing them again. That one gets kept, even with the camera awareness. That's another one I select from that scene. And I we go to another spot and shooting vertical again because the composition demands it. Because I want to include, I want the whole arch, the whole frame. I want the foreground leaves just to add layer. A little bit of that dimension, 3 dimension, and layering. And I keep shooting, and I find another slightly very different pose. A little bit more movement with the little boy, and just something just slightly different. So I have them keep those two. They can pick which one they want to use. Then he even mentioned he wanted headshots because to use on social media and Zoom and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, cool. This is a spot I was about to take photos of the family in. You can stand there. Let me see what I can get. So I did a bunch of different types of photos in the same spot. In a typical portrait session, I would not take so many shots in one spot, or at least there won't be many keepers. I might try different things and pick like 1 or 2 images from that scene and move to another place so I can get another type of image from that scene. So I'm very scene based. Like it's always a different scene to add variation. So this one was a keeper. That was a keeper. That was a keeper. This was a keeper. Took his hat off. That was a keeper. That was a keeper. Like the I like the little bit higher, a little bit more chest. It just seemed like the image is a little bit more balanced. So I picked this one over the previous ones. Just more balance to it. And I like having his shoulders added some shape. There's a shape up top and there's like a little bit of shape below versus just a head. So this one just stood out to me. It's the one I kept. Then did that one. Keeper. And I had the family come together. Maybe a little bit more. Keeper. Change scenes. Had them sit down. Keep sequencing. That was the keeper. Kept shooting. Got in closer. Kept that one. Now, another thing about photographing families is trying to have the parents stay focused even though the kids are moving, because when the kid gives you what you want, the parents are already ready. But a lot of times parents get distracted by their kids, so when the kid actually gives you what you want, the parents are distracted, so they end up being the ones that are messing up the picture. So the kid gives me something decent right there, right? But now these guys are distracted, so picture is gone. So I keep shooting, and they had to go get him back. Tied his laces. I got that because it was cool that he was looking at me. Nothing special in the grand scheme of composition and all that, but it was just a stolen moment that I was able to secure. Then They get back in place. Boy keeps moving. And eventually I get that. There are probably several ones I could have kept, but like that one, I like his foot, the kid how he's laying down. But I made an executive decision and went with that one. Um, but in hindsight, I could have kept the one with the elongated feet, like his feet, like that look kind of cool. But it doesn't matter, man. It's still a decent photo, like you know. And when you're getting 78 photos, like they'll be fine. But yeah, there's several options in there. This is the one I went with. So I keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. But generally, though, I try to get one image from these scenes, from these sequences. Um, if I give them two, it's because there are two decent ones that are two good ones that I feel, they could like either one or both or whatever. So I just give it to them. But generally, I'm really looking for one image per scene. I give them that one too. If these were adults, I honestly would have had one. It's when there's a little kid and their facial expressions are different and you don't know what facial expression the parents connect to. So I do that. I give them a bit more just because I don't know. Like I know if it was my kid, I know what facial expression I'd like, but it's not my kid. And you as another person might have a different. You might find the kid's face cute, and they're like, "Ooh, why? Why is he? Why did he select that one?" So I'm a little bit more looser with my calling and picking of images, my final images. So I change the scene again. Get that one. And I get one with a little bit of gesture. That one. I think I got that one. Did I give them these two? Yeah, no, just this one. This was one that didn't make it. Did I give them that one? Then I get closer again. I give them that one. Shooting here. Kid's hiding behind his sister. I'm like, all right, guys, step away from the door. Come forward. Come forward. Then I'm like, all right. He puts his son on his head. I'm like, I like this. I changed my camera angle to shoot down. I was like, not really feeling it. So I get closer. Then I get lower. He puts his hand behind his back, hiding his glasses or something like that. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I can see that. Put your glasses away. Put your hands in your pocket. I told the daughter to hold her mom's hands. You guys connect. And they connect. The boy's looking at me. Everything lines up. And boom, I get that shot. So I love this one because things just look pretty lined up, especially with the little boy. He's engaged. He has his hand on his dad's head. It's a nice little moment. So I'm having them walk. We're still walking in the area, trying to get to another scene. And I grabbed that shot because, I generally don't have clients walk. Like when I say walk to me, some people like tell them to walk to me and you start shooting as they're walking to you. I usually don't do that. I did this because I saw something special. I saw that moment. I saw the kid on his dad's head. And I felt like that was a genuine thing. So I photographed that because it was genuine and it was special. Right. And that's why I photographed that. If they're just walking, I wouldn't, it seems something really cute and special going on there. And this happened too. The daughter connects hands and I'm like, this is real. This is like their real life. This was a documentary opportunity for me. So I snuck that in there and took that, And I would have gotten this one when she jumped. But I don't know. It just was weird. I think, what was it? The motion? I think there was motion blur or something. I can't remember why I didn't pick that one though. I had my reasons. But anyways, maybe it wasn't the right kind of jump. If she had like kicked her heels or something, then that would have been cool. But and I just kept shooting through it. Kept shooting through it. Now this is the next pose. So I liked it was between these two images. I didn't like the camera awareness, obviously, so I picked the one before where he just seemed to be looking away from the camera. It looked a little bit more natural, even though the little boy maintained camera awareness. I like the one where the dad wasn't looking, so I went with that. And I kept shooting through it to get a decent one, but that was the one I ended up picking. I had the little girl sit, and I found my composition and just kept shooting till I found what worked for me, and that worked for me. That was the final. Kept shooting through it, adjusting my composition slightly. Then I did portraits of her, full portraits, vertical orientation, because I wanted a full body shot. Got that one. Then I did a little bit more of a close up. I got this one. That was it. Final one. Shot through it a bit. Did a portrait of the mom. Picked that. Closer one. Got that. And one smiling. Got that. Little boy was hard. He kept bobbing forward, back and forward, moving around. Shooting at 1:4 is pretty difficult. So his was like literally, if I got lucky, I kept the photo. Some of the ones I liked were really out of focus. When he's smiling, like that's out of focus. He's out of frame. Out of focus. So it's hard to shoot kids at 1:4 out of the frame. So I ended up just picking that and that. I wish it wasn't chopped off at the top, but that's what we got. So we're gonna work with what we got. And here I had Dad testing the light. And that's the composition I went with. That's the one I went with. He gets to keep the photo now. And I use that composition I use the lights testing to now set up a new shot where I change my orientation. Right? And never show your light source. Never show your light source, right? That's my light source. Don't show it. To keep people guessing. So you take away the light source. And people are like, oh, how did you like this? Well, the light was coming from the ceiling. It was like a cavern, and there was lights, like skylights. So the light was coming from the top. That's the final. And then I had mom and daughter. I had them look up because the source of light was up top. This was a little bit less. So a little less connect. I feel like, okay, fine. This is a little bit more stylized, less of a connection. It's basically just posing for the light. Did a color variation in case they wanted that. There was one with more connection, but because of the lighting, the mom's face was dark. So I was like, scrapped. That was nice for the connection, but the mom's face is in shadow, so there was no point. So when we got outside, I did some more, tried to get more of her with the boy. Kept shooting through the entire thing. None of these worked out for me. So I got close and prayed for the best. And eventually he gave me something. So I got those two. I figured they could pick. And when couples become parents, they tend to forget that they were couples first. So it's always about the kids, about the kids, about the kids. So I decided to try and give them some couples photos, so they kind of remember what it was like to be a couple. So I did a few. I did not do too many variations. I kind of they were basically going for one, but I tried to make stretch that one into multiple, and you know, I got a few different shots of the sim. It's pretty much the same thing, right? Just kept shooting and moving things around, so slightly different each time. You know, getting different emotions, slightly different poses from them, or more gestures towards each other. Just introducing layers, you know, more layers, kind of talking them through, making them laugh, and bringing out some connection between them. Then I moved to the stairs to photograph their daughter. And I'm just taking more sequences. Got that. Got that. Got that. But the common theme again is the composition, right? You kind of see how the backdrop, like that's my thing, is always trying to get an interesting backdrop, minimalist backdrop, very little distraction, stuff like that. So that's always going to be there. Got another one. Got one holding a brother. I thought that was cute. And I do one of them again. That's the one I got. And I decided, the dad was sitting down, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can actually use these benches as the backdrop and have that repetition thing going. You know, having the eyes will follow the repetition. So this was the first one I made. And I made another one. That one. Then I actually shot it from a different angle and did something different too. Right there. This is an image he just was goofing around, so this is nothing to be considered. It's just something he was goofing around and doing, so I made the image for him. But it's not really part of the session per se. And I tried to do some stuff here. This is like after the session, we were done pretty much. We're sitting around and talking, and I just saw the kids doing stuff, so I tried to like secure images of them, see if I can get anything unique. This is more candid conversations they were having with the kids, or with the kid. I just kept shooting through that, trying to see if I can get anything cool, but nothing really happened here. The daughter went to play with the little statue, and I just went along and like just got a photo of her. Nothing spectacular. And this was the one I did just because it was kind of like mimicking. They both were looking in the same direction. So I sealed that one. But other than that, that's pretty much it. This is the final photo. It was them taking a selfie. They were taking a selfie, and I like to like catch people taking selfies. So it's almost like they have two pictures. They have the selfie and the picture of themselves when they were taking the picture. Just something I like to do. So this was the final one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just quickly go through the entire thing of what they got. That's the first one. So all the images from the session. So that's the entire session. 78 images, a lot more than I usually deliver. And I think it's because of a lot of the single images too, that the headshots and portraits of the individuals. But for Christmas, I think it's more than enough photos that most people would need. People just need one or two, sometimes three. So when they get this variation, they kind of love it. And I charge accordingly for my time. I know some people might question why I give so many images when you can sell them and all that. And, you know, sometimes competition makes you do things, so uh, if I were to charge what I charge and limit the photos, people might not book. It's just what I've noticed. Some people are fortunate where they can do certain things, but for me, um, this is kind of like my selling point. Giving them these variations and charging what I charge for sessions. So, uh, we'll see. We'll see how if in the future I can change some of that. But yeah. So, anyways, thanks again. I hope this was nice. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was something you guys might. If this is something you guys want to see more of, please let me know. I will do it with additional sessions that I shoot, and I'll go over them and talk about thought process. Talk about show the keepers so you can see the whole contact sheet and see how the session looked. Um, and I want to thank you guys for your support. This I actually will try to I will try to commit to posting at least 2 videos this month, to make up for the one that you didn't get last month. Um, Last month was pretty busy, and I actually do not have internet connection. We were switching our thing around, and I lost internet connection for a week. So I'm actually doing this video with no internet connection, but I'm going to find a way to upload it to you guys, even if it means using the hotspot on my phone and using up all my data. But you guys will get it, and I'll try to get you another video this same month, December. But yeah, thanks again. If you guys have anything you want to see, if you want to see more of stuff like this, if you want to see critiques of your work, please send them to me. I'd be more than happy to critique them, about kind of focusing on composition and things like moments and things like that. But yeah, thanks again for your support. I hope you liked the video, and let me know if you want to see anything additional. Thank you.